One of the day's top stories now, and Section 27 has been supporting the Komape family's fight for compensation that is against the Department of Basic Education. You'll know about the judgment coming out from the Supreme Court of Appeal today in that particular matter. We are joined now by the organization that is Section 27's attorney, Sheniece Linderboom, who joins us via Skype. Sheniece, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. So this is different from the whole case around compelling the government and the Department of Education nationally and provincially to provide adequate sanitation. This was about the suffering and the grief of the Komape family. How important is today's judgment?
Hi, Sheniece. Thank you for having me. You'll forgive me, I'm a little bit unwell, so my voice is not the greatest. But yes, so this was specifically a claim for damages in respect of the pain and the suffering, the trauma that the Komape family experienced from the loss of their child in a pit toilet. There is also work and another case which is being done, which would then speak to the greater impact around a structural interdict for toilets in schools around the province of Limpopo. But this specific case was really just the trauma that the family experienced from the loss of Michael.
So what specifically, Sheniece, did the court order, around the issue of damages being paid for grief in particular? I understand that's a pretty big deal, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're pleased. It was great to be able to speak to the family and just hear the sense of relief in their voices, and they really are quite pleased with the judgment. There was an award of damages for emotional shock and trauma, which totaled an amount of 1.4 million. There was different amounts awarded to different members of the family, as well as future medical costs for the 3 youngest children, which was what we had asked for in the original application to the Polokwane High Court.
Talk to me, though, about the specific element about damages for grief, Sheniece. I understand this had not been done in terms of the common law. It's the first time it's being done.
Look, we are still evaluating the judgment itself. We haven't. We're still going through the judgment and reviewing it to be able to comment in more detail. But our understanding was that it was just sort of the emotional shock and trauma that was granted with the recognition of grief. But we are still evaluating the judgment, and we'll be able to give more comments once we've gone through it thoroughly.
And you mentioned that there's another case. Are you heading back to court over the bigger issue around the issues to do with sanitation provision in schools?
So the Polokwane High Court had, the reason we had appealed is that we didn't initially get the damages that the family had wanted out of the Polokwane High Court. But what the Polokwane High Court did grant was a structural interdict which said that the Department of Education in Limpopo needs to ensure that there's safe and adequate sanitation for schools in the province. So this is still in place, and this is something that we're going to be pushing forward with next year to ensure that there is compliance with the structural interdict that was granted.
All right, thank you so much for joining us there. That is attorney for Section 27, Sheniece Linderboom.